as long as I can remember, I've always had hard decisions to make, and I ended making my decision by a pros and cons list. From kindergarten Sierra, I was probably deciding my outfit or what I was gonna wear to school each day. Pros of wearing a skirt and sandals in the state of Florida, while also knowing that I would have to go play on the playground and hang on the monkey bars, and the skirt was not the correct option. Fast forward to senior year Sierra, and I'm still making a pros and cons list of whether I should choose to eat dinner or go out and get ice cream with my girlfriends. Ice cream is coincidentally one of the 3 F's in agriculture: food, fiber, and our fuel. These are fundamental to agriculture and our industry. And so when I'm asked about agriculture in the next generation and the next decade and what I think about it, I go on to have lots of thoughts. Immediately, I think about making a pros and cons list, but I think there are so many pros, that's not even an option. I go on to think about ag being one of the oldest practices and a method that farmer has used that is so technological. Most immediately, I think about the recently increased efficiency and profitability that we all know about. This is also linked with the direct idea of replacing farmers' jobs, which people are terrified about. But I want you to put your bad thoughts and your negative comments on the back burner and listen to all the positives. First of all, I want to talk about productivity improvements. AI in the agriculture industry can help yield a greater amount on the same land. Example being Microsoft's Farm Vibes AI tool. This offers features and options where you can look at your soil or yield and what accesses the increase to these profits. Farmers being able to use tools like AI on Microsoft gives opportunities for them to know before they're putting in the ground what they're going to gain out of it. Secondly, I want to talk about reduction and loss, our next topic. AI can also predict the weather and the potential impacts of these conditions: wind, rainfall, and impending droughts, which are all things that I like to think about before kindergarten Sierra puts on her outfit for the day. Just as I'm picking my outfit, farmers are keeping these minds in the back of their minds. Farms offering predict crop stress yield stemming from the issues of not only water, pests and diseases, but also other things like droughts, currently that a lot of America is going through, which helps farmers take the right action to get rid of loss. And now we're on to our third topic. AI can also help regenerative ag in including reducing all of our issues. I think immediately of till cover cropping, and the impact of management by helping analyze our soil, carbon, and financial profitability. AI can also decide and help farmers analyze where fertilizer is needed on their farms, which, in case you didn't realize, helps conserve and reduce the nitrous oxides emissions that we're giving off into our world. After all, agriculture is supposed to be the most sustainable industry in this world, and if we're offering things like this, we should be keeping the best foot forward, going forward not only to make our food, but to keep our earth around for long. Adding on, we're also going to talk about smart supply chains. Farmers knowing their knowledge and then having AI help build it off. Helps them better understand the supply chains and our disruption. This enables them to better plan and source their inputs from the best possible locations. As a high school senior, I'm broke and I really don't like going grocery shopping. Picking out what I'm going to eat for lunch each and every day is such a feat because of the pros. This helps us predict the best sales price and differentiate the farmer's hard work versus the big corporate companies' hard work where they're using other people's hard work and profiting from it, whereas our farmers are profiting off of their own hard work. And let's not forget that it keeps our consumers happy with our prices. And lastly, but not least, there's so much more that we didn't address about bridging the technology gap in our industry. In recent changes, AI is producing not only text, but also images to help response into prompts. Typically, farmers are out in their hands, and when I think about it, their hands are getting dirty, but they're probably in soil or covered in manure. This gives them an opportunity to voice to text and use things like Siri to better be able to market and put their stuff on social media, giving farmers the correct opportunity when they're sitting in the tractor or out in the field to use their native language and talk about whatever they choose to put on social media and put it right then and there. Multitasking at its finest. Properly with all of the greater options, productive improvements, reduction in loss, truly being sustainable like our industry strives to be, keeping our supply chain smart, and bridging the technology gaps. These are evident and real options and why AI in our industry is important in the coming decade. Thank you.
Hi, Sierra. Thank you for telling us more about AI. With the current hard launch of AI, and it is everywhere, what is one way that you use AI now and one way you plan to use it in the future for agriculture?
Yeah, I think AI, a lot of people think about that it's such a hurt and a diss to our industry, but I think about farmers where our main age is 45 years old. Farmers, as they're getting up in age and continuing family farms, it's giving opportunities for them to less labor and to gain more out of it. I think about farmers who are out and they're in the sun a bunch. This would give opportunities that we're not having to go directly out in the field to actively assess what's going on and how we can have greater yield, but they can do it right from the comfort of their own homes and on the couches because AI can graph a map of their farm and see where their yields are coming from before they go out.
Hi there. How
Hello.
do you view AI as giving farmers an opportunity to get their message out to the consumers and to the public?
Yeah, for sure. So I think about social media. As a teenager and being in high school and FFA, a lot of students are really active on social media. But when I'm out working my farm job, I'm never on my phone. Honestly, my phone is probably left completely in the barn office and I'm never on it. This gives so many opportunities when I'm out that I could be taking pictures or marketing or something that I think of or I see that I want to promote to my business and my consumers. Farmers can then pull their phone out of their coveralls or their jeans or sitting in their tractor cup holder and just talk to text. I know a lot of us, especially myself, call Siri all the time and say, "Hey Siri, call mom." So this would give them this opportunity, the same exact things. They can use AI and talk to text to be able to market their products directly from in the field, which is all around just saving everybody time.
Sierra, thinking about AI, and there's a lot of advantages.
Yeah.
What are some barriers that agriculture still faces in implementing AI in our systems?
Yeah, I think any form of internet and going forward, I think I see it a lot at school. The internet's bound to crash. AI is somehow not going to work one day, and there's always going to be minor hiccups along the way, just as any process that we go through. So I think about if you're using AI, that you're probably going to run into some hiccups and then you're going to be solely relying on it and not being able to market. If you're relying on marketing one day and Microsoft AI crashes or it's not working for the day or Microsoft's updating, I think that could make it really hard. But I think there's so many opportunities of AI literally everywhere that's not just Microsoft, that if Microsoft crashed for the day, you would still have other opportunities. Thank you, guys.
Y'all ready? All right. Who's your favorite superhero? You see, when I was a kid, my favorite superhero was Optimus Prime, a big, giant robot that I loved playing with his toys, transforming them into little smaller vehicles that I could then roll around on my parents' floor. But I also loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I loved playing with Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello, playing with all of them together. You could say that I was a very diversified kid. In our world today, farmers face many challenges, from the expenses that they see on their farms, to the fertilizer and seed rising prices that they have to deal with every single year. In fact, my dad actually talked to me before I came here today and told me that nitrogen was up almost 120% from what it was 5 years ago. That's insane to think about. How is something so valuable like nitrogen, that's a fixating quality for corn and soybeans, gone up so much? Why has it gone up so much? Well, our farmers have to deal with so many things, but one thing they shouldn't have to deal with is a market that's unstable. Right now, soybean, corn, and wheat prices are all scattered out. They're so lowered from what it was a few years ago that now it seems almost irritating to think that these farmers are making half the profits they did 5 years ago. In fact, soybean prices are down almost 50% from what they were during COVID, going from a merely $20 per bushel to about $10 per bushel today. And although they have gone back up, there is still lowering cost. Fertilizer has not gotten cheaper. Other things, such as seed, has not gotten cheaper either. So we need to realize that our farmers are dealing with a lot of stress and a lot of expenses. But how do we fix this? How do we help our farmers get rid of these expenses and make a better profit for the future? Well, you see, the answer to this is what I told you in the beginning: diversification. You see, on my family's farm, we grow corn, wheat, and soybeans. We grow all three so that they can go in a crop rotation cycle. We grow them so that our land, a natural, living, breathing organism, as my dad calls it, can flourish and receive enough nutrients to grow a crop from one year to the next. Most people say that a farmer will die rich and live poor. The reason they say this is because their land is so valuable. Well, in order for a farmer to make a profit nowadays, we need to use our land to the best of our ability. I know from my experience that in order for the land to flourish to the best of its ability, the farmer has to care and tend to it. And they have to make sure that it is receiving the best treatment. Whether that's applying fertilizer that's going to help those plants flourish, as well as making sure soil microbes flourish alongside them all, or it's helping to make sure that you keep a consistent crop rotation from one year to the next. No matter what it is, we need to explain to our farmers that diversification is a quality they need to adapt. I can tell you from my experience myself that me and my mom grow a giant pumpkin every single year. And one thing we do to diversify our operation is we utilize the chicken litter from my chickens to apply it to the pumpkins so that they can grow and become so much bigger. As we all know, farming is hard. But in order to stick in the game, in order to continue on for the future, we must find new ways to revolutionize farming and make it seem more appetizing so that others can join us, as well as make sure that costs go away and support is grown. Now, I've talked a lot about diversification today. I've told you about my experiences, and I've told you about what we can do to help our farmers, but I want to tell you something right now. Something that you can do today, something that you can do after you leave this room, is go up to a farmer, shake their hand, and tell them, I'm here to help. That's the biggest thing that we can do to help lower these input costs, to help make sure that these farmers have a sustainable future for their families as well as their workers. Because as I know, I want to go on to become a farmer. And I want to go on to a farming world that's supported by others and that's not too expensive to live in. Thank you.
Hi, Cyrus. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So thinking about diversification, you talked a lot about, obviously, our row crop farmers in the state. What diversification could you see for other farmers, maybe in the livestock industry?
Obviously, I do not have the as broad livestock experience as I do crops, but I would have to say for our livestock farmers, our poultry farmers, all of those out there, the best practice for them to implement onto their farms is to look at other ways that they can utilize the products from those animals. For instance, I know with my chickens, I utilize straw bedding that I'm going to get from my local crop farmers. Potentially the other thing could be said about a local livestock farmer. Potentially they might want to partner up with one of their crop farmers to get some feed, or potentially barter in exchange. Going back to those basic principles that were taught to us early in elementary school when we're at the lunch table trading lunches. Or potentially utilizing other ways. For instance, with the livestock market currently, with swine production and poultry production, both of them have large mechanical houses. In order to diversify those, you might look at potentially utilizing both houses so that they can go onto an electrical phase system to make sure that the cost on those electricity you're utilizing over a year of time is lowered, as well as gaining two sets of profit that aren't going to be dependent upon one source of income, the market for swine or the market for poultry. In this cases, you have your foot in two different baskets, or you're not putting your eggs in just one basket.
Cyrus, as a sheep farmer here in Kentucky, we diversify our farm by not only having show sheep, but we have feeders, lambs, we have commercial sheep, and different aspects that are constantly bringing in different streams of revenue. Which commodity were you most familiar with? Just chickens, or was it crops as well?
Crops and poultry are the two I'm most familiar with.
So tell us more about your crops. How can you diversify that to affect your cost? If it didn't go well last year, taking it to the local grain bin, what's your other options?
So I think there's a few different ways you can go about it. In the crops industry, you got a little bit more diversification than others in the sense of you got other uses for those products. So for instance, the biggest thing that crops are utilized for here in the state of Kentucky is fuel and bourbon. Those are the two biggest things. And in my family's experience, we utilize all of our corn for bourbon. But we also utilize a lot of the corn that's cracked or some of the bees wings that we're getting out of those bins for animal feed as well. That'll go to Bardstown, Kentucky, that'll get sold off to other farmers, and that's a way that we can gain income to our family besides just worrying about the bourbon market, worrying about all of our corn going directly towards them. Another thing we utilize a lot of the time is we'll look at what the market standings are. So for instance, soybeans right now. Soybeans are lower in some places, but we're trying to see who's giving us the best price for our soybeans. Is somebody in Owensboro giving us the best price? Or can we send them off to Boston, New Haven, somewhere else where we're gonna get more money for it or get the best value while also factoring in that it takes to hire somebody to haul it out there, factoring the cost of fuel nowadays. So taking in all those different factors. Wheat actually is where we've had the most diversification on my family's farm. We started out utilizing all of our wheat to go to McDonald's biscuits up in Indiana, and then from there we've then transitioned into sending them up to Indiana to get turned into turkey feed, which has actually been really cool to get to see all of that happen and see the different products that come out of that. So I definitely think looking at an open space market, seeing who's willing to buy your product and who's willing to give you the most money while also getting the most value at it as well. Y'all have any more questions? No? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Cyrus.
When people hear agriculture, they often think of it as a commodity industry. A commodity is something that is perceived as being consistent. Many would say that milk is a commodity because it's the same regardless of where it's produced. However, that is not the case. It can be turned into cream cheese, yogurt, ice cream, and much more. According to Penn State Extension, farmer Clayton Rowe learned that in order to have a positive impact on farm business profitability, you have to diversify your operations. That is where value-added agriculture comes into play as a marketing resource. No matter how one chooses to differentiate their product, doing so can have tremendous benefits. For example, you may find that the returns from a pound of strawberries sold as jelly are much higher than selling a pound of strawberries to a processor. The NCAT believes that while it's also helping the farm income, it's providing better nutrition for children and mothers. What a package deal. Some may say, well, Madison, it's not just easy to add a new venture to an existing farm operation. And while I agree with them, I think the return of the work will be incredibly rewarding. Farmers know that success does not come to them without a learning opportunity. Value-added agriculture is just that. It's a learning opportunity. You could learn new skills of a processing and packaging unit, storing and transporting, as well as managing new labor. For me, I would create a PYO, a pick-your-own operation. Not only are you getting people out of their homes and their classrooms and onto the farm, but you're also increasing farm profit with tourist dollars. If I lived on a farm, I would first prepare the soil, then combine a whole bunch of flower seeds, and I would sprinkle them all over. When they bloomed, I would allow people to pay an entry fee to make their own arrangements from my operation. For extra profitability, I could host flower workshops for beginners or for Mother's Day. Obviously, there's a lot of planning that goes into it, but a girl could only dream. All in all, there are so many marketing resources out there for farmers to increase income and profitability. Value-added agriculture and a pick-your-own operation are just two possible ways. Farmers, I encourage you to exhaust all options and choose an operation that will best suit you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Can you think of some partnerships that might occur to help a business have a value-added possibility?
Yeah, I think one of those could be the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. They have a wide variety of opportunities and organizations and different clubs within their main organization that I think could not only provide funding but opportunities as well. I think there's so many different sectors to the KDA that there is someone that could help maybe even come to your farm to give you ideas, whether that's turning your strawberries into cakes and making a business out of it. I think the KDA would be the one to support them.
Madison, besides using a value-added operation, what are some different marketing resources that small farms could use?
Will you repeat that question, please?
Besides using value-added, what are some other marketing resources that farmers could use?
I personally believe in social media. Social media is a huge outlet in today's times, and I think it's one way to find young minds. Young minds are always on social media, and young minds are creative. I think that if you reach a new audience instead of one that farmers just like to stick to, I think if you find a new audience, they could help you to spark some new interest in a value-added agricultural operation. Thank you.
In 1440, Johannes Gutenberg changed the world with the invention of a single machine made out of wooden blocks and movable metal keys. The printing press revolutionized the Renaissance, promoting the spread of ideas, allowing for the mass production of literature, and even challenging religious conventions of the time with the production of materials like Martin Luther's 95 Theses. Human advancements can permanently alter the course of history, and innovations are being discovered every single day in the agriculture industry. Hello, my name is Carolina Ray, and I am proudly representing the Woodford County FFA chapter and the Capital City region. I'd like to discuss adaptability in agriculture and changing dynamics that support our vast industry. Today, innovations in agriculture are seen across the country and used by farmers of all shapes and sizes. One group of farmers taking advantage of these developments are new and beginning ones, easy and eager to start their own businesses. It's no secret that the average age of the American farmer continues to rise. The 2022 Census of Agriculture reports it sitting right at 58.1 years of age, and it only continues to rise. So, how does our vast industry adapt to meet the productivity levels required to feed a growing population, while also bringing in new generations of young farmers? One of the primary concerns raised by young farmers is in regards to land availability. 59% of all young farmers named finding affordable land as very or extremely challenging, according to the 2022 Young Farmer Survey, and it's been identified as the top challenge for young farmers. Fertile, healthy soil is essential for beginning an agricultural entrepreneurship, but costs, market competitiveness, and inexperience make the daunting task seem impossible. How do we combat this conflict that is at the center of supporting a new generation of farmers? Some progress has already begun, like the purchase of Agricultural Conservation Easement Corporation, which preserves agricultural farmland from being commercially or residentially developed. This program has successfully kept nearly 32,000 acres in agriculture, and these easements are available to be returned to production by new farmers. In addition to land being a limiting factor, equipment costs are a known deterrent to young farmers. For many individuals without family connections and immersion in a community, purchasing large-scale equipment can total hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't know about you, but those kind of payments would be very foreboding if I was just beginning in this industry, and I didn't expect to see payment until the next harvest season. Renting commercially remains expensive, as well as bidding in auctions, but partnerships between retiring farmers and new farmers can help bridge this gap. Farmers can allow newcomers to work on their land and take a fraction of profit margins, or even partner to offer equipment at a discounted rental cost in exchange for a return on investment. Those partnerships contribute heavily to the communities that can form to support new farmers. Organizations like the Kentucky Farm Bureau, FFA alumni chapters, and the American Farmland Trust help connect young farmers with like-minded individuals and mentors to guide them through the process of starting their business. Communities provide support, encouragement, and advice that is essential for beginning in this industry. While innovations like the printing press are important, their impact goes beyond sheer machinery power. They provide support for the industries. In the same way that the printing press supports the literary industry, changes to land access, equipment availability, and even community building support farmers in the agricultural industry. It's imperative that our industry embraces innovation and change to support its younger members, as those factors will be the cornerstone to raising this new generation of agriculturalists. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. You mentioned a lot of really good resources that are being used. Is there anything that you can think of that is not being implemented now that you think might be something that would encourage and support beginning farmers and those starting to embark on the farming journey?
While I think that a lot of the current resources are doing a lot for new farmers, I don't believe it's as much about starting new programs as expanding ones that we currently have. I think there's always more that we can do to support these farmers. Like I mentioned in the speech, creating a community is really important, and providing resources to foster that community is essential. Whenever I think of supporting new farmers, I think of tangible resources, of informational videos, of different kinds of textbooks and different written pieces and testimonials from other farmers that have started their own process. It can seem really daunting to be on your own in this industry, especially if you don't have a family that understands it as well as you do. But hearing from other farmers and expanding these communities like the FFA Alumni Network that has provided for so many people, like the Young Farmer Program with the Kentucky Farm Bureau that has recognized and highlighted the accomplishments and achievements of new farmers. I think there's always more that we can do, and more tangible resources and funding should be allocated to those programs.
FFA gives a lot of people a good start in the agriculture world, supporting the new and beginning farmers. What is one way that FFA has supported you as a new or beginning farmer?
As a what, sorry? A lot of my time in the FFA has centered around leadership and around building my leadership qualities. But the one thing that immediately comes to mind was the way that the Kentucky FFA and the National FFA organization supported me as I was journeying through the agricultural sales CDE at Nationals. That was a really daunting process for me. We were learning about Kubota equipment, sales processes, how to talk to consumers, how to sell products, and even how to address customer complaints. But my advisors and the Kentucky FFA that provided judges for me and provided feedback consistently and taught me how to become immersed in the sales industry was really important. I learned new skills and I learned about products that I have no experience with. I was the least experienced person on my ag sales team. Two of my teammates raise crops and animals, and my other teammate is just older than me. She spent more time in the FFA and she knows what she's doing. But I was out of my element. I felt like a fish out of water. But it was programs like the FFA, like the advisors all over this conference and this convention that supported me and provided me with information that allowed me to compete at nationals and place individually. Is that all? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Carolina.